Off and on the clock continues our tour through the Underdog lobby today. Last week, we have hit Eliminator and Sprint in previous weeks. And today we are going to dabble in some weekly winners here on the eve of the NFL schedule being released. And also, we have an official update from the Underdog Drafts account about the state of the overlays and draft assistant tools. We'll get to that. I'm Pete with Jon and Nez. This is Off and on the Clock. Let's do it. All right, GMs all around. Jon, Nez, how we doing? Nez, how is the boots on the ground in Dallas after you guys rigged the NBA draft in your favor? How are we doing?
I mean, there was a generational white boy to be drafted, and people didn't think Dallas was going to win that. I mean, it's the obvious successor from Dirk to Luka to Cooper Flagg. I mean, what did people think was going to happen?
So good. I love, my timeline definitely skews to football, but having it dominated by screenshots of Nico last night with his what is the screenshot of his devilish kind of grin or whatever he's doing? It was just too perfect. Absolutely too perfect.
No, that was wild. That was wild. I mean, right in front of our faces, it really feels like.
So I was pulling for the Trailblazers. I thought the Spurs would be fun up there. I mean, that would have been like a budding dynasty there. It feels like. Jon, any thoughts? Is the NBA draft lottery rigged?
I mean, I thought Davis had the best tweet about it in general, where it was just like, they can't keep getting away with this vibes, where it's like they made every mistake possible and then they just get rewarded with the 101. So I don't know. I don't have any comments on whether it's rigged or not, but it's a little sus and a little too perfect pattern matching there.
All right, let's we got ground to cover today. Let me pull up the screenshot because literally as we were going live, Underdog had been kind of hinting that we might get an announcement when we were on Lulz yesterday. Taylor KB mentioned that they told that there would be one. And I guess I'll just go ahead and read this. I will always service the audio listener, so we will continue to do so here. And then we can get your guys' reactions here on this announcement. So it says, we've seen the new draft tool that has been the focus of discussion this week and would like to provide some clarity. We have always monitored what tools are out there. We've allowed some, we've blocked others, and we're grateful that various creators have played ball in making sure their tools do not break our terms of service. In general, we do not allow scripts. We do not allow strain on our APIs. We do not allow automation. We do allow suggestions and overlays and have for quite a while. We understand the concerns and the various viewpoints on this, but suggestions are allowed. Automation is not. We will continue to monitor new tools to ensure they are in compliance with the applicable fantasy regulations and our terms of service. Signed, Underdog. Initial reactions here, fellas.
I mean, I think it speaks volumes to. I think it's really clear, concise, and I think it speaks volumes. The automation notion, the fact that they doubled down on that word a couple times there, that is the tipping point for them, and that was something that you guys alluded to yesterday on your show with Brick's tool was fine until it was picking for you. Then it was no longer fine. That's allowed on redacted, but not over here kind of thing. And that was a big tipping point in our discussions yesterday, Nez, especially with the daily streets, that we don't want to see infiltration of automation. We want this to remain peer versus peer. And it sounds like Underdog is in lockstep with that as well. And this articulates that in my estimation.
Yep. No, this is basically what I was hoping to hear, and I think this is a great way to do it. Here's a tweet from the Drafts account, because if it was tweeted from the main Underdog account, they'd be asking for pick'em refunds. So I think this is the right place to do it. And I think this is good.
Yeah, and I will say too, a lot was said yesterday. A lot has been said. Hopefully we can use this. I think it's completely reasonable if people want to still have conversations like I've seen Jon having with others. I think some of the parallels with the poker stuff is really instructive. Like we can use a very similar type of, game that went on, that has already traversed this territory, and use that as examples. I think those discussions can be helpful. And I do appreciate the people who are still thinking about the health of the games going forward and what that means. However, so many of the arguments and the vial being spilled on the internet over the past few days centered around a lot of ambiguity from, hey, there's this clip of Jeremy. And then it's like, well, this new thing, does it fall in the terms of service? It's nice that we now have clarity. You can disagree with this or not, but there's no ambiguity around what is and isn't allowed. And so hopefully we can all move on from that part, because that's the part that was led to so many people talking past each other. It's just not even agreeing on what they were arguing about.
Right.
How Underdog has formalized what is and wasn't is allowed. So I am very grateful for that.
It's a very convoluted discussion too, because it doesn't have a binary answer. Like there isn't a pros cons. There isn't a yes, no to this, because like the nature of any game that has money associated with a prize pool is people are going to find ways to be better at it than other people. And some of it will be public facing. Some of it will be behind closed doors. Some of it will be a top secret Discord somewhere with 5 malicious actors that Underdog's trying to protect against, right? Like that's just the nature of any of these games. So I think people really wanted like a binary 0 or 1, like absolute, like no tools or tools, like which is it here? I think there has to be some hybrid gray area, because the nature of it for the trickle down economic effects of this is going to get a lot more people who are, kind of stuck or behind in barrier of entry into the space. And that's a good thing for games as well, right? So there's a lot of layers to the conversation.
For sure. I think the big thing yesterday that made it so difficult, like Pete said, was like the lack of like agreed upon, like definitions and terms. And like you're talking with people that are like not fully understanding what it is that they are, afraid of. And yeah, I know that there's a lot of different people that play best ball. I know I came into this space in like 2020, 2021, not a lot of money to spend toward best ball. And I know that's something like, I can understand where some of that fear came from, just because like I would be upset too if like I only had money for puppies, and now I'm going up against like something that I don't quite understand. I guess I can empathize with some of that, but I'm glad that this statement's out there, and I do not want to read anything else on my timeline ever again about this, truly.
Yes. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to promise you that, Nez, but at least the volume of it should be less. So I do sincerely appreciate that Underdog put this out. I mean, I think the thing that was frustrating is obviously the things that have come out played within these terms and services. I mean, ETR was like the 5th person to do this. They said they sat on it for 2 years. I promise you they were not investing however many hundreds of thousands of dollars in devs and, time to make a tool that was not allowed. So just getting this out here for the people who were confused about what is and wasn't allowed is good. And now we can move on. And I think it is a spot where we can continue to take a pulse on the draft rooms, and you guys can, in the dailies right now. Obviously, I will be a ton when we get to the NFL dailies, and we can see like, are things actually changing? Because we can all do the boogeymans and we can all do that stuff, but then like, let's see what's actually happening in these draft rooms, and what's also exploitable for us too. Like we talked about it in dailies all the time. ETR ranks being the most popular ranking system for football. Like half of our discussions on Friday Off and on the Clocks are, what are the ETR ranks doing? How can we exploit that to our advantages? Where could their inputs be fragile? What are the ways that we can get on low-owned guys? What are the ways we can zag? And that becomes part of the game. Like that leveling element, it happened in DFS. It happened in the dailies. Like there's a leveling to, all right, you might be getting to play the best plays, but I'm going to maybe take on a little more risk, sacrifice some projection to have a better shot at winning a tournament. So the games evolve and the strategy evolves. And I think what's fun for us is like, we're playing a game, it's a puzzle, and we'll continue to try to solve the puzzle and continue to try to beat our opponents because that's what we're doing. We're playing a game.
Yeah, fully agree with you, Pete. I think one last closing thing I'd just like to say is I think the community, the sentiment in the community is all well intended, where it's trying to protect what we see on some of the redacted content now, some of the other platforms, this sort of thing, where they'll talk ad nauseum for 45 minutes about a football slate or a basketball slate or whatever. And then the closing takeaway is, I'll just do what the tools tell me tonight's slate. And there's, taking away the ball no, or taking away the takes, taking away that sort of thing. And I think it comes from a place that is good inside people to want to protect about our underdog game, and in particular our daily content going by way of that, where Nez and I talk for an hour about stuff that doesn't actually matter or impact the game, and then we just say, well, the tools will tell us what to play, that's how I'm going to formulate my 150 tonight, see you tomorrow kind of deal. So I just wanted to kind of say that
for sure. All right. I don't think there's anything else to be said. Like I said, anyone who wants to have good faith arguments and discussions, I think there are places for those. I've seen some good conversations in the Discord, in Badge Bros channels, in the ship chasing. They're actual productive conversations. People on both sides, not just everyone falling in line, with one side or the other. Actual discourse. Twitter has not been that. I haven't seen a single productive conversation. I've seen some interesting threads. I've seen people make some good points, but not an actual conversation. The whole reason Levitan and them wanted to come on the show was they wanted a forum to talk because they knew that they couldn't do that over Twitter. So I will continue to not participate in bad faith arguments on Twitter. But if people want to discuss that in Discord in good faith, I think those should continue to happen.
And I will continue to sometimes fight the unnecessary fight that Pete is not willing to fight.
All right. Let's do what we all love to do, which is talk football and draft teams. The schedule is already starting to leak out. I've already seen, I saw someone had a screenshot where they already have the week 15, 16, 17, and they're already filling in the 3 matchups we know, getting ready. I mean, Kitchen already dialed up a Denver bringback to a KC stack in the Swoleclass draft we did. So are you guys getting fired up for the schedule here?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's hard not to, right? It's so ingrained in us to memorize this stuff. I'm excited to come up with my little mnemonics to figure out how I'm going to memorize this stuff off the top. Will we get Derrick Henry versus the Texans again? Will the Vikings play the Packers again? These are the pressing questions that I'm excited to get answers to.
We need something in that mnemonic to rhyme with scataboo, or we'll stretch it to scatabo to get something rhyme in there for our bits, Nez, because that's our guy this year. We need a juicy week 17 matchup.
What about, man, we already have Denver. Because I was going to say Giants, Denver, we could have had Scatabo Knicks, would have been pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's literally going to be what our ship chasing show is tomorrow, is coming up with the mnemonic devices for the playoff.
Honestly,
game.
That sounds so fun, dude.
I know. Well, because Karain always he made one last year that he
was good.
He printed out, which is good. I think I tell you guys, so I had, last year after the NFL schedule, because I got my assault bike to do my Underdog cardio club, and I had printed out the little schedule and taped it onto the display so I could be doing my cardio club drafts. And I know I just admitted to having an assistant there printed out, laminated even, and maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that I did that, but I kept it up for so long. It was only a month or two ago that I finally got it off there. It just was, emblazoned on my bike. So yes, that season where we're going to get, what was it last year? There was the quad with the Bears, the Seahawks, where they all played each other overlapping in weeks 15, 16, 17. I love that we are about to head down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely. No better game to discuss it for than weekly winners too. Weekly winners was one of these ones where we just gal brain macro. I went off the deep end when it first came out there in some of the early season schedule stuff and some of the more predictable stuff, and saving bullets for the tail end. I don't know, maybe just macro guys, what's something you think you've learned the last couple years for this weekly winners format as we jump in?
Last year, I took a different approach where it was after Pete did his After Dark with, I think it was Michael Chang, and he was talking about optimizing for weeks 1 through 4, and I really took to that. And I had similar outcomes as I did the year prior, which was lost money, but like, you know, had some fun, had a sweat here and there. I do think this year I will be trying to do more like zero RB type stuff in here, which doesn't seem like right or optimal, but yeah, I do think I'm going to try to like win toward the middle or late season this year more than last year. I really did not do that last year at all.
Interesting. I mean, Nez, it's nice of you to attribute that to Michael, but come on, who was talking about week 1 through 4 3 years ago, bro? But
you're taking Taysom Hill in the pick 80, dude.
Hey,
that totally negated everything you said.
It would have worked last year if Taysom was a tight end. Taysom would have broke multiple slates. But one thing that I think I've kind of like learned and evolved from in thought process, and this stems off of some of the research that you've been doing, Pete, there is just the value of those running backs flex scores and the value of the premium quarterback separating, that I think like the one at the quarterback position is still viable. And I think doing some robust stuff where you literally try and win 3 running back slots is not as crazy as it once would have seemed.
Yeah. And to me, of all of these game types that you want to talk about, and dare I toss around the word solved, I mean, the weekly winners has to be the game type that would break a sim more than any other game type, because I don't think there's a right answer for how to approach it. I think the right answer is, are you approaching it with like a cohesive angle, whether that is early season stuff, whether that's late season, whether you are playing it through like a hyper fragile build or more of like zero. Like, I do think having a cohesive narrative to what you're trying to do in a specific draft is important, because like you are having to play for a specific outcome. But I think there's so many ways to skin that cat, where I would say like one build, like someone optimizing for weeks 15 through 17 isn't bad. I think the reason the optimizing for the early season stuff was so compelling is because the ADPs still mirrored that of the regular formats, which reward the back weighted production. So you did have a lot of the rookies, a lot of the wide receivers pushed up more. And so it was more like a zigging when people zag. If it was the opposite, if everyone's optimizing for weeks 1 through 5, then clearly optimizing for the middle portion or the later portion, I think then, becomes most advantageous. But I think that's the fun thing about these drafts, is you can get in and you can react to them. And as we saw in the sprint, I know JMC was tweeting about it in the marathon as well. Like, there's some really distorted ADPs that are nowhere close to as efficient as they are in the main ones. And I think these side contests right now are pretty ripe for the picking, as far as having that strategy and taking advantage of those bad prices.
Absolutely. Guys, without the schedule right now, without the ability to correlate, bye weeks or correlate some matchups or something like that, when we ape into this thing right now, are we going to be trying to, densely correlate around some division and play that kind of mantra, or is that something that's aping into, bad ownership? Is it something we should be, maybe onslaughting 2 or 3 from one team and then just, filling out with some ceiling profiles or whatever? Like, what's your initial approach here?
I think, if you do have let's say like the NFC South, like let's say we've got a Panthers stack going on, like tie breaking with NFC South opponents feels good. I don't think that's like, I don't think there's bad chalk in weekly winners personally.
Yeah. And I think pre-schedule, I think it's a little more just figuring out what structure makes sense for our early round picks. And then kind of you're obviously reacting to that. And I think the other kind of thing, and I actually want to go back and watch that video I did with Michael, because there was so much good stuff in there, and I probably should have done that before this show, as we talk weekly winner strategy. By the way, this was an After Dark show on my channel last year. You can literally pay the whatever $6 for a month, go watch it, cancel the sub if you'd like, and enjoy that alpha that I think will still be fairly evergreen. But the other thing too was thinking a lot about like negative correlations in games or within teams too. And you're really kind of trying to thread a needle. And it's almost like we were talking about in the sprint, right? Where, or was it eliminator? I can't remember, but we were talking about the value of team level correlations, even when you don't need the high variance upside of a double or triple stack in a single game week, you still want to be directionally right on a year's breakout team. And I think weekly winners puts that dynamic under a microscope even more, because you want to hit on the undervalued teams. But also, if you have Jamison Williams and he's going off, it probably means Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't hitting his ceiling game. And so I think being really choosy about like the way you're playing teams and understanding, like, you might have one chance to catch lightning in a bottle. And if you get that JMO 30-point game, it probably means those other expensive Detroit Lions are not going off for a huge score. So I think tilting my correlations late, like being fine loading up on 3 Panthers in the final like 5 rounds, like I'm okay with that. But overstacking a team in the early rounds, I think is like completely kind of off my board in weekly winners.
Yeah, good shout.
Yeah.
Is there any format where like ceiling matters more?
I mean, this is the one where you have to hit the dailies, but
yeah,
season long.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be this one. I mean, every single week you are up against, trying to pull up the exact number here, 186,000 people, different lineups that you are trying to compete against. And, you know, you can maybe take this to like another level and say, well, for 186,000.6, you know, divided by 12, since there can only be like 15.5K copies of each player in these, kind of helps think about this. I think you can sort of dwindle down like who you are trying to beat when you are building out these teams. But like Pete said, like skinny stacking, I think like that type of ceiling chasing is really good process. And I was sort of like fighting that when weekly winners first came out. I was trying to, you know, set myself up to be like, well, if my quarterback goes off, because I was doing a lot of single QB, I want multiple ways that one quarterback bet can be right. But in reality, you are limiting your top 0.001% outcomes by doing that. So fully a skinny stack, bro, and definitely giving extra weight to the running back position as well.
Yeah, well said, Nez. I think that was probably the one thing that we were furthest off on when this contest initially dropped, was the shooting for 0.1 doesn't mean onslaughting a team. It means most likely a single or a double stack associated with it.
And I'm just tabbing through. I just pulled up the results from last year and just the week 17. I know A-Win, and then we got our guy Demo here right behind him. That is funny. I didn't even realize that was A-Win. But one thing too, and so this was the Joe Burrow week, right, where he went off. And one thing you'll notice, and it makes sense, right? If you have someone at the onesie position who goes crazy and really separates, it's like a legit had to have piece, right? Because it's easier to make up points at running back and wide receiver. And you can even see, like, you know, this team that A-Win didn't have Malik Neighbors, but you look at third place, they had Malik Neighbors 32.6 points. That's a really good score. You didn't need that to win, but you did need Joe Burrow's 36.98 points because he was the highest quarterback score on the slate. So that's another thing that I think is good to think through as far as the onesie positions as well.
Pete, can you go to the tight end for both those teams for a half second there? Because I think one thing that I fucked up originally was like an emphasis on the elite tight end stuff, where it was kind of like the emphasis should have been on the onesies, yes, but in particular quarterback, because if you don't have the highest scoring quarterback on the slate, I don't think you can win, but you can slough by with like the third highest scoring tight end or a correlated tight end at times, right?
And I would say, like, so this slate, right, and we're just looking at one, Kelsey scored 18.4, Laporta had 15.4. those are good scores for a tight end, but not like smash separator scores. I would define that as like 25 plus points for a tight end. Because this was a lower scoring slate, this team 13.6 from Gesicki is fine if Kelsey's only scoring 16. But I'm guessing if Laporta scored 25 this week, you would have had to have Laporta if he separated from all the other tight ends, because it's just so hard to make up 9 other points against 180,000 rosters or whatever. So yeah, you see some variety in the tight ends on a lower scoring week. So yeah, that makes sense. And this is the other fun thing about this is you can really justify some of these thinner builds. Like this team that finished 4th is funny. Even removing Deshaun Watson, they had just Jared Goff at quarterback and Sam Laporta. And I kind of liked this angle a little bit too, where you're just saying, I'm going to draft a Jared Goff Laporta team. I know there'll probably be a couple spikes between those two there. And if I can get them to line up, now I'm just praying that the running back and wide receiver stuff comes together.
I still think that is like a good strategy. And, last year, a lot of people, I was really surprised at how many people were not trying to go single onesie in this contest. And you don't necessarily have to do a stacked onesie and go onesie all, one at QB, one at tight end on the same team. You could do one or the other or do both like here. I was just really surprised at how nobody really wanted to do that. And seeing some of these lineups makes you want to go back to that. Like just, it's so silly to treat a 1 year sample and say, yeah, I was dead wrong. Never again. Like, I want to go back to that, I think.
We were right, Nez. We were right.
Yeah, and I think the thing that starts to get interesting with it is the cost too, right? Like I remember, was it 2 years ago when Weekly Winners first launched, where it was Lamar and Mark Andrews and even like Mahomes and Kelsey were actually kind of hard to get paired together because they were both so expensive. I'd have to think through like the cost element of it. I like it here where Goff is almost cheap, relatively speaking, like you're not having to spend a top 4 round pick like you are on some of the elites. You get him at 110. Laporta was obviously an early round pick, but even then pick 38. I'd have to think that through, but obviously the more you spend, like the more you need them to be the nuts as is.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could also think through like a QB like Goff in this contest is almost never going to be, at least a QB at this ADP is almost never going to be single drafted, because he's going so late. A lot of the times he's going to be somebody's QB2 or QB3 for whatever it's worth, right? Like you are making that all in bet that nobody else or very few people are probably making on purpose.
Yeah.
That's what would be the parallel to that this season? Like potentially like single JJ McCarthy, where you take Justin Jefferson in the first round and then you just punt quarterback entirely and then use that.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I've had this conversation with people recently about like just how I think about correlation. And I think again, the Weekly Winners example is so I don't think it's bad whatsoever, obviously, to stack your first round pick with your quarterback. But I do think, like, to me, the selling point of the Jefferson, the CeeDee Lamb, and the Chase is that they can have a 30-point game with their quarterback scoring 20.
Right.
Whereas Rashid Shaheed is probably not going to go for 25 without Tyler Shuck having like one of the best games of the season for him too, because of just the profile and what it's going to take. Whereas those guys can be volume monsters. I mean, the game we went to in Dallas where CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase consolidated in such an insane way that game. So I'm less likely to go out of my way to stack up my first round picks because I'm like, you already got this. You don't need anybody else to drop a 30 ball.
Yeah, that's a good shout there, Pete. I was just thinking about that game. I don't think either of those quarterbacks cleared 20 fantasy points that game.
No, I don't think so.
I don't remember that either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Didn't Jamar Chase have like 16 catches? That game?
Yeah, it was something insane. Yeah.
Yeah,
we didn't have him in a single pick.
Completely shadowed T. Higgins. I had T. Higgins, and it was just Jamar Chase, like out routes and curl routes all day for like double-digit receptions.
Yes. Yeah, just before we hop in a draft, I figure we could kind of scroll through the rankings here. You do see like Lamar and Allen have a top 20 ADP Jaden Daniels. So there is certainly a premium on the elite quarterbacks. Once you get into like the Bo Nix, Kyler range, like Kyler's like a round off of his ADP, whereas Josh Allen is like a full 20 early picks higher than his. So that's like a significant jump specifically for the early round quarterbacks.
I think when you look at it through the lens of the daily slate stuff, it kind of makes sense where it raises your cash floor so effing high. So like if you were doing 150 of these and consolidating around the elite quarterbacks early, your cash floor would be like pretty high. I don't know if your ultimate ceiling for winning a week is as high because, you know, there's probably 10, 11 quarterbacks that can be the highest scoring quarterback on a given week, or there's other guys that will randomly spike for you, and it would be better allotment of draft capital, but it definitely raises your min cash floor by prioritizing them. Would you guys agree?
I mean, I think that makes sense. But with the capital spent, you know, in 12-person drafts, I don't think it's quite as strong, if that makes sense.
I think the capital spent in like week one is worse than the capital spent now, because the capital you could be giving up for Josh Allen right now is like Jalen Waddle last year. And you wouldn't have needed Jalen Waddle once in this contest, but you would have used Josh Allen 9 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I think it goes back to with these early quarterbacks, and I do think playing the dailies is really helpful too, where you think through the perfection needed in the cost. Like if I'm paying this price on Lamar or Allen, in Hurts, I think would be the three I'd single out specifically. We know that Allen nuclear game, it's because he's probably scoring 3 touchdowns, right? And sure, is there going to be a receiver like a Khalil Shakir who's going to score 17 points in that scenario? Like, yeah, absolutely, in that crazy game. But I almost think with these early round running quarterbacks, you probably want to lean toward playing them almost naked outside of really cheap pieces late. Jaden Daniels is kind of interesting where it's like, could you get an okay price on Terry? We did see so many Jaden Terry combos hitting last year. And I think this is why the dailies are fun, because you can go through these guys and it's like, okay, if Joe Burrow's hitting, one of T or Chase are going nuts. But some of these other guys, it's a little less clear. Bo Nix is certainly falls in that gray area.
Yeah, no, well said, Pete. This is a good conversation that just came all the way full circle back to the original weekly winners principles of naked Justin Fields for all those reasons, right? Like it all made sense. The thesis made sense.
Yeah, and I really think thinking it through the lens of cost and what you need from that player and what a ceiling game from them means for the rest of their teammates is a really good kind of prism to view those early clicks through. And there are obviously exceptions. Like we saw Derrick Henry and Lamar have big games together last year. But in this format, you'd literally have to spend your first round pick on Lamar and your second round pick on Henry. And the way to think about this, I think, is not that they couldn't get there in a single game and that 1 week wouldn't. But for the majority of weeks, one of your first round pick or second round pick is cannibalizing the other and limiting their ceiling. Whereas if those players are on different teams, you leave yourself opportunities for them to always be able to hit their true ceiling in a single week.
And there's a ceiling booster available in the last round for free in Justice Hill. That,
there you go.
Positively correlates.
So yeah, there's so many fun angles to think through here. Should we hop in a draft, see how it goes?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. First weekly winners. People called us maybe rightfully crazy for doing eliminator drafts before the NFL schedule. Now we're doing another kind of buy heavy format, hours before the NFL schedule is released. But we want to have you ready. If you want to rip weekly winners drafts the second the schedule is released, at least you'll have some stuff to think through.
What would be the number one thing you guys would incorporate? You're drafting tomorrow, weekly winners. The schedule just came out. Would it be early weeks? Would it be correlating buys? What would it be for you guys?
Other than like the obvious of like, hey, not trying to get too many buys, or, spread around my buys too much. I would definitely be trying to predict shootouts for sure. I don't think that that's bad.
No, to me, I do think is fun to, like when I was doing my drafts last year, I was pulling up that early season schedule and I was basically trying to find, are there any of the Chicago Bear, Seattle Seahawk, Detroit Lion, like round robin pairings in like weeks 1 through 5. And I think last year, the first bye was week 5, kind of just looking at weeks 1 through 4 and seeing, cause we all have fun playing those correlations for the fantasy playoffs. And this was just a way to be like, oh, now I get to do that for a different pocket of the schedule. And it's not dumb to optimize for weeks 1 through 4. So I was just kind of enjoying the variety of playing a different set of games. And I did think Michael made a really compelling case on why that could work out.
It's also when we know the most variables too. Teams are the healthiest, like that sort of stuff too. So it works on 2 levels. Yeah, I think last year for me there was it was the Cards schedule early that really jumped out. I think because the Cards and the Rams and Buffalo and the Lions, and they all overlapped somehow in that first little bit, if memory serves.
Yep. Yeah. That was juicy. Yeah, and then
the Cards didn't hold up their end of the bargain, dude. Every other team blew the shit out of them, but they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Trey McGraw didn't score any touchdowns at the onesies.
I promise you, when you draft Trey McBride, there are no guarantees of touchdowns. Those do not come with the Trey McBride draftees. Those are completely a bonus. If you get them, they are a bonus. All right, we'll see what Beast Mode 77 does here as he probably auto times out Jahmyr Gibbs. No, Tavon Achane.
Wow.
At 1-4. All
right.
So we can grab Gibbs. We got our elite wide receivers here. Do you guys have an angle you want to take?
I think Gibbs is really good floor ceiling combo. I think I would prioritize running back a little bit more than wide receiver based on that daily data. But yeah.
I would argue, maybe I'd hear you out on Barkley, but I think I would argue highest pure single game ceiling of any running back is still Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
I think Barkley's probably right there, but.
And then you factor in the contingent upside as well, and it's like double bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about Beast Mode, though? I mean, that is like total weekly winner principles. Like last year, why would I not take Tavon Achane in the first round? If we, with the presumptions that we had, or the assumptions we had last year, which was that like the Dolphins would be good and Achane would have like what we're saying about Jahmyr Gibbs right now, like. Those are the type of picks that I really like, just like, who do I think can put up 50?
The AW says talking about contingent upside for first round picks makes me nervous. I mean, John, I think the way John was saying is that's a bonus too. I think he's a fair value with 0 contingent upside because of that single week spike ability. Like no one is going to dispute his ability to drop 30, even with a healthy David Montgomery. But John is basically saying you're paying for like, can I get 3 to 4 of those over the season? If you remove David Montgomery, we might start talking about 5 to 7 of them that you could get. So I think that's the distinction there.
Look no further than the last 2 games of last year. Like he had to have it. Like that 4 touchdown game. It was 4 touchdown or 3 touchdown.
The Detroit one
there.
Or San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just so like his big play ability to be able to just hit the home run on any one touch. There's no other running back I would take over him on just like I had to score a touchdown from 50 yards out against an above average defense or any defense. Like give me Jahmyr Gibbs getting that rock.
And plus they play in these high total games in a division which has a lot of shootouts, and he plays indoors for a minimum of how many? 11 as a floor for indoor games right now. Something.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. We were talking about the quarterback ADPs being higher. We see Josh Allen go up 14, but you do look at the tight end ADPs and they're actually slightly lower in some instances. Bowers did go at 13, but his ADP 16. Trey McBride, who I think has an ADP of 23, and Best Ball Mania goes at 28 here. George Kittle is actually priced similarly Laporta a little ahead. It's interesting how those are getting spliced
Yeah,
out.
it's like elongated, right? Where the
Yeah.
top is more expensive and the bottom is cheaper because like Kelsey is like a 20 pick delta from Best Ball Mania, but like I don't know, that kind of checks out. I can understand people chasing
When
that.
I see those, let's make this pick. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So Drake, JT, Ladd, Jacobs, Bucky. I definitely am kind of finding myself gravitating to a running back here. Taylor seems fun, but if you guys want to do wide receiver, I'm good.
I'd like JT.
Me too. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's double RB it up.
If we can just get
robust
both of their what was it? Their week 17 games, Gibbs's and JT, we'd be pretty happy with that outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It
shouldn't be too hard.
The tight end one, when I look at that, just given this drafting landscape and current ADPs, it incentivizes me to make these 2 tight end builds more than 1 tight end builds, and like kind of ape that middle tier of guys that have slate breaking ceiling, but also don't cost what Bowers does right now.
Yeah, and I think I honestly think I'm open. Specifically, I mean, in I guess every format, but weekly winners to all 3 strategies, like elite tight end. No one's going to question the ceiling for these top guys. Mid-round tight end, like you said, get your Hawkinson, get your Jonnu, guys who probably aren't going to spike a ton, but can certainly do it. And then, or you just play the late round tight end game and say, I'm going to take Zach Ertz, I'm going to take Pat Freiermuth, I'm going to take Dalton Schultz, and I'm going to try to win on a week where one of those other tight ends we just mentioned don't go for 20 plus. And that my 14 from Pat Freiermuth in his one good game can match the 17 from the Brock Bowers on a given week.
Do you guys think that spending more than 2 picks on tight end, irregardless of capital, would be bad?
No. I'm quick to say no. If it's, I would say capital minded. No, I don't think it's bad. But taking more, 3 if you have Brock Bowers, like no.
Yeah. No, I was thinking it through the lens of spending 3 at all would be bad in weekly winners because you want the ceiling spikes come so seldomly from tight end, especially late tight end, that even if you're taking late tight end, you should still only take 1 or 2.
Yeah. Let's pick up this tight end conversation here in a second. Drake London falling a good bit. We'll see if beast mode takes him. He's got his own ranks cooking. Chase Brown. That. So yeah, starts with the 3 early. Me too. Drake London is the value here. A lot of the good running backs got wiped, so I think I'm more intrigued by the wide receivers here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a format where who do you want, Nez?
I'm London.
Okay.
London.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do London. Penix, I think, becomes a pretty solid target at his price there. Get a little value on him. The one thing go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think this is that would have been a price point where I would have been fine with like just going 1 at the tight end onesies and just taking McBride, but I do think I prefer the back end prices. I also was gonna say that Tyreek Hill stands out as like a format guy here where I mean we know he's older and the surgery and yada yada. Like he's not a guy that I want to be heavily invested in this season at all. But if one isolated spike week of that 40 ball 3 times a year is what you need. Like he still has that slate break ceiling where in whatever 4 years of Drake London, we've seen it one time, that one dog bowl slate in Miami, basically.
Yeah. I think, the McBride, it is funny, right? Because like so much of the selling point too of the elite tight ends, it is the floor ceiling combination. And you have to ask yourself when I'm paying these prices, how much am I paying for as the floor and how much am I paying for as the ceiling with these guys? But yeah, it is so easy to see like if either of them had basically any touchdown regression relative to their amount of catches and how many points you would expect them to score via touchdowns on that workload, then you're getting a really good deal. If you're not getting those touchdowns, then yeah, they're probably overpriced in this format.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because like floor is going to raise your min cash, but it's not going to raise your ceiling outcome, which is just like obvious to say. But like that's basically what Trey McBride represents best.
Yeah. And man, Imwald points out we drafter X-Spin here going Allen and Hurts together. That would not be my preferred strategy in weekly winners.
Likewise, but that lineup, there's something interesting about weekly winners in general, where it's like it's such an anomaly to win an isolated week that playing to cash multiple weeks over weeks with 150 could be like the most profitable way of playing this contest, because you're never going to win 2 weeks in a season and you're very, very unlikely to win one. So like if you're just trying to turn, what's the entry fee on this one? $10, $15? What is
I
it?
think
$10
it's 10,
this year.
Yeah, if you're trying to turn like 10 into like 18, like it's probably viable. It's not how I would draft the contest, or not the way to approach it for me personally, but it's probably the most like profitable in quotations.
We're on the clock. I was going to be interested in mixing. I think we are kind of leaning toward trying to win this early. I'm certainly good with Kittle.
Kittle
DJ
or Worthy?
Moore. Yeah, Kittle. Those were the two I was phoning in. All right, let's grab Kittle. You know what?
Shut it
Maybe
down at 1 now.
I think we could still be open to a second one cheap. I mean, the one thing we'll probably run into, right, is like there's still so much value and so many starting tight ends cheap late that we'll probably come across a spot where we're like the best pick is a tight end. So I wouldn't want to box us out of that specifically. But yeah, I think we could. The fun thing about Kittle, right? It's like we still have a little uncertainty, right, on Ayuk's kind of like health and availability at the start of the season. What is the one thing we know about Kittle? It's like you remove guys from that offense and all of a sudden his ceiling potential really increases. So obviously Debo gone, Pearsall, who knows what kind of role he's going to step into off the rip. I think that's a fun angle for Kittle stuff.
Yeah.
And what I'm really excited about too is like, kind of think this Niners defense might be like sneaky bad. So that could be obviously like very good for their game environments.
Yeah, man.
If it does play out that way, of course.
I know that's the thing I've been starting to get. Oh, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. I was when we get on the clock. Remind me. I want to look up somebody in the search bar.
Okay. Yeah. So Kamara. Yeah, Hampton's an interesting one too, because these are the kind of picks that I think kind of determine what you're playing for, where it's like, I think most scenarios are Omar and Hampton isn't like paying off this tag in weekly winners until halfway through the season or later. I think would be probably the smarter bet on it. So like on these rookie teams, are you playing more for a second half bink when you draft a guy like Omari and Hampton at 46?
And I think playing for the second half is just so much harder because you don't know the variables of injuries, right? So playing for the first half makes so much more sense. So
what's Pickens' ADP? I just wanted to see.
Yeah, he is at 63. So this is like where he's now going. But this ADP definitely represents a value to his where he should go.
Hunter's a hell of a value here, but what do you guys think? JMO, also a hell of a ceiling play, but we have not Gibbs.
Not with Gibbs. Yeah. I'm good with Hunter. I mean,
I'm good with,
I like Hunter.
I think, obviously you run into that same thing where you're like, probably Hunter spikes are coming later in the season, just the safe assumption, but it doesn't mean he's a bad pick. Especially at like 53 relative to his BBM ADP.
Yeah, well said. I think that's a good point from Steven in the chat there. Most winning lineups have like a few, but not always like 8x nuts that chip this thing. I think that is like a good that is like he's making the argument associated with the quarterback stuff, but I do think that is a good like reminder of like the combination of floor ceiling, where it's like you don't want the whole 5 MVSs because the likelihood of 5 MVSs spiking, let alone spiking in the same week. Yeah, it's just like a good reminder. I don't know what the best takeaway is. I think it's just a good point.
For sure. I mean, yeah, even those lineups we were tabbing through, like there were whiffs. One person had a 0 from Deshaun Watson and had 2 total at the 1Z positions. Like there's going to be a lot of ways you can get there. I think the one thing, it's like you're going to need 7 to 8 ceiling hits from across your roster. That is one thing that is for certain, but you're obviously not going to hit on every pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this, like someone was asking in the chat too, the rookie question, how are we treating rookies in these versus normal best ball? We kind of mentioned at the top, and I think Hunter kind of put all of our brain in a pretzel where you could see him spiking right away. You could also see him taking time to develop. At least with Amari and Hampton, that situation seems more clear to me. Like he's not going to be a 20+ touch guy right out of the gate. But I could see him being a 20+ touch guy by week 15. So are you then optimizing for later picks? I think knowing like RJ Harvey, I'm not worried about his early season role. Like I think he could get 20 touches in week 1. So I do think you have to apply some context to the rookie in their situation.
There's also some unique situations like Jordan Addison right there, who just went, who's like a guy that would pair better with Hampton than with Harvey in theory.
Yeah. You see how the player pool starts to limit by if you want to steer away from some teammate stuff. Rome.
I think I like
who? Godwin. Yeah, he's another. Are we sketched at all about his early season?
I am a little worried about his injury, but
timeline wise,
I go ahead and grab Godwin for us. That was the only thing that spooked me is like, is this now a team that's kind of lacks an identity of like trying to win early or trying to win late?
Yeah, I that was tough. I think if I could have had that one back, I probably would have thrown out Aaron Jones for us. But maybe we run a little pure with the Chris Godwin timeline.
Because Montgomery's off the board for us because we have Gibbs, and then like Judkins and Caleb Johnson, we're trying to avoid kind of the rookies. So then you're kind of looking at like Jones, Pollard, Swift as running backs who make sense for this team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, according to who is it from Tampa Bay? Jason Litt says he feels very good about Chris Godwin's injury recovery. So
okay.
we're back.
All right.
Nice.
Let's do it. That's all you need. That's like the best thing in the fantasy footballers toolkit. I mean, not the guys, but like any fantasy footballers, you just you do that one Twitter search to get the one nugget on the player that you need. I was writing about Will Shipley in the Fantasy Life newsletter this morning, and I just Twitter search Will Shipley, and there was one report from I think Jimmy Kempski, one of the Eagles beats, and he's like, I see him being an upgrade on Kenneth Gainwell as the RB2 this year. I was like, thank you. That's what I was looking for to help buttress my case that Will Shipley is a strong RB2 sleeper.
It could be from anybody.
That's all I need. Art on Schefter. All right, let's look a little closely here. I do think guys like Olave Judy, but Aaron Jones still being here, I think looks good too, Nez, if you still like that pick.
I do like Aaron Jones, but beast mode might be going beast mode on us. We'll have to
He's
wait
up
and
to
see.
5 running backs. We could also entertain Baker with Godwin, but I think with how running back dries up, I kind of lean into the Aaron Jones here.
Yeah, let's see Jones.
Yeah. I think he plays well for like early season production too. A guy like him could be misreading it, but
beast mode is kitchen's burner. Good clean fun.
I do think Olave is a really good deal at these prices.
This is a good time. Yeah.
I think even though it could be rocky, I still think his single game ceiling is definitely worth these prices. I don't mind the Jerry Jeudy price tag either.
Yeah, it's like the ambiguity about them is like keeping them like suppressed when, at least a lot, like with Jeudy, we did see good football. Olave, injuries, there's different situations, outside of their quarterback ambiguity that is happening. But no, I agree. They both seem like, okay, this is the time to buy. Like it seems like it's almost like peak FUD around these guys right now.
I'm scared of the concussion stuff, man. Shit's scary.
Yeah, I get it.
Yep.
Mathology said Coach Speak Index said that Godwin's still on track for week 1. That's bullish.
We're back.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, what do you guys think about? We passed on Jennings there. Could have set up a double stack with Jennings and Kittle. Is that good or bad in our eyes?
I kind of ignored Jennings chat talking about Monty too. Like, to me, I just still think I worry about the cannibalization at these costs of like what I want from Jennings. I want the alpha game for him. That probably means George Kittle isn't going for 25. I don't think, I think there's certainly weeks it could work. I just think you limit the amount of weeks that it could actually happen.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Ooh, man.
I do love Jaden Reed for single week upside.
Yeah.
Double cover, boys. Let's go.
Is that who you had on the cover?
Yeah, I had Reed and Gibbs on the cover.
And I did what am I getting the glitch on here?
Not the ghost Q. Oh shit.
Okay, I got him in. Did you see the quotes that the team was coming out and how they were trying to like pacify essentially Jaden Reed and be like, no, you're still the wide receiver one, blah blah blah. Like that was the report, and then what was it?
Yeah.
The coach LaFleur came out and was like, "There's no wide receiver ones. I don't know why you guys always have to frame it like that."
Yeah, I think Levitan like retweeted a person's like analysis of it, and it was basically like this is like being like an A+ agent here, finding a way to slip this information to Adam Schefter to like tweet it out and say this, like the biggest NFL insider that exists, to say this, and then he can use this whenever he's trying to court athletes and say, look at how I go to bat for my guys. Like Jaden Reed was facing competition and look what I did. Like I went out there and I demanded that something be said. But like, it feels good for me to hear it, like, I don't hate hearing it as a drafter.
Well, and it's so silly too, because it was like, their wide receiver room was getting thinned out last year with injuries to Christian Watson, and they had no interest in featuring Jaden Reed. I still love Jaden Reed. I think he's a great weekly winners pick, but I do call some like bullshit on it. It's just like, no, like you are a team that has basically been content with, we're going to have a lot of specialized guys and a lot of specialized roles. And we don't have an alpha, and it's wide receiver by committee. And that can work in the NFL, but to like have to put a label on it that Jaden Reed is the wide receiver one is pretty silly.
It is.
These guys and their fragile egos, Pete.
All right, we're about to pick on the clock. We got no quarterbacks: Gibbs, JT, and Aaron Jones at running back, Drake London, Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, Jaden Reed at wide receiver, George Kittle at tight end. We could consider kind of grabbing Brock Purdy here if we want to play that like quarterback, tight end, alpha stack. Certainly some running backs in play. I don't think we do Mooney with London necessarily. Ayuk is certainly a good price if you want to entertain the double at these prices.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do Ayuk unless we had Purdy locked up. I mean, there's chance he still comes back. I
lean Purdy here.
Or Purdy.
Who is your other one, John? Warren?
Yeah, Warren feels like a floor ceiling combo guy who it's like he can score in your flex for 14 and be like a cash guy, but he also has like spike and contingent alongside it.
Yeah. Yeah, I grabbed Purdy there at the last second. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
With Kittle, and I do think, I guess the Purdy distributions, I would have to go back and look at it. Like how much his like Kittle's Uber spikes correlated with Purdy ones, but to me intuitively they do pair really well because so much of George Kittle's ceiling production comes from him yak and just like big plays. Where that's obviously going to inflate Purdy's numbers when you have someone doing so much after the catch.
Yeah.
Right. And like in game scripts where they are passing more because he's not, he's used as a blocker so much and they're not running the ball quite as much. So like that just, increases Purdy's ceiling in general. And there's more routes to be ran for Kittle. That to me checks out.
Yeah.
A lot of good names off the board after that Purdy pick.
Yeah.
That I would have liked. that was a tier. That was a gigantic tier that I liked. And it's all gone.
Yeah. Ayuk, Warren, Pittman, and then we get the running back, Scatabo, Tracy, Tootin at 107. Yeah. And this is now the part of the draft where you are kind of having to make some concessions on something, right? Like there's no kind of clear, I think, angles to take at this point.
Do you guys hear that Discord notification on my stream?
No.
Why?
Just trying to figure out this damn computer, and I downloaded that stupid Discord app for the first time ever instead of using the web browser. And now I just I've closed it. I have notifications turned off, and I still hear this damn pinging noise every time.
It's so, I love it. Weren't you bragging about the Discord app that you had discovered it?
Yeah.
I do think Javonte is like an intriguing early season running back.
I'm
I don't
good
know
with
though.
it.
Any other inspiration hitting you guys here?
I like Ramondre more than I like Javonte for what it's worth.
Keon? Anybody?
Sure. We need a wide receiver.
Okay.
I haven't been drafting much of him,
just
but I can see
flashy, man.
Yeah.
Increase the volume a little bit, and you can really be cooking with him. I mean, his ADOT was so high; it just feels like a specific type of receiver in Buffalo there that I want to like bet on breaking out. This is really cheap for a year two Josh Allen wide receiver.
Yeah. I probably need to be more open to him, but I do like you can kind of take all the bad games that are probably inevitably coming in this format and just enjoy what a random ceiling game could do if he has that 2 touchdown game or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Seems like the perfect type of player. Like he has so many, he has a 1 for 49 game in here, a 1 for 64. I mean, obviously we want more than that, but just, what if he has more than one catch paired with those type of games? I don't think that style is going away from his outputs.
No. Let's see here. Yeah, so we got the Brock to Kittle. We got our 3 running backs: Gibbs, JT, Aaron Jones. 5 wide receivers: London, Hunter, Godwin, Reed, Keon Coleman. We'll see what beast mode does here. I'd be interested in Jordan Love with Jaden Reed as a second quarterback in this window, especially with them kind of really flying off the shelves here.
Yeah, I think that would solidify a 2 quarterback build too, because I do think spending on these onesies is probably bad in a vacuum in weekly winners. So 2 and 1 or 4 total picks on the onesies feels good to me. So if that comes to fruition, I'm going to be about it. I would ask you guys too, if you would be capped at 1 tight end here with Kittle, we're just playing it through him, or would you entertain a second, potential spike guy like Njoku here?
Not here, I don't think.
I'm open to it, but yeah, I feel like we're gonna have a spot. Are you guys good? Nez, are you good with Love?
Yep.
I'm open to a second tight end. There's just so many viable ones at basically every price point throughout the rest of the draft that
That's why I
feel
was like
one,
not
yeah.
in Joku, just because there's just so many more to be had like in future rounds.
Yeah.
That I was good on that.
I have another guy I'm interested in. We'll see if he comes back to us. It's going to be like right at ADP, so it probably won't happen, but we shall see. But I think we do have good positional balance on our team right now. You know, we're not doing any extreme push anywhere where we kind of have to catch up with, you know, quantity at a position. So I think we can kind of pick our spots. And I will say, like, this is the point of the draft too, where I'm like ready to loosen up, you know, correlation stuff where it's like, hey, if we want to take Kyle Pitts, like with a Drake London team and just saying like, hey, one of these guys is the one who's getting loose for the long touchdown, or, you know, I guess this is where I'm kind of like, man, all bets are off. Maybe we do just want to concentrate on a couple of team bets.
Yeah, agree with that for sure. I was going to ask you guys that Christian Kirk pick right there. Have we jumped the shark on this like Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk stuff?
I mean, he is coming off an injury as well. So given that, I mean, he's probably too cheap, probably. But yeah, I mean, they did draft 2 wide receivers. Nico is still there. But no, I do think in general though, like he's probably too cheap.
I think I agree. He's kind of like Christian Kirk's kind of like the Devin Singletary of running backs, where it's just like he's professional. He's going to be out there. You thought I was going to do like a Pokemon comparison there when I started, didn't you? No, my comps are actually NFL player comps. Yeah, where he's just pesky enough that he's not going to get discarded by even a talented rookie wide receiver right away. Mm-hmm. I definitely see the path for Higgins much cleaner than Noel.
Yeah, mine being kind of like how different is he truly than like Tank Dell last year?
Right. Well, I think just Tank Dell's profile had a little bit more explosiveness in it. Okay. I was going to throw out Garendo on this like 49ers team where we are invested in them, and, you know, Garendo kind of with the contingent upside behind CMC, where it's like you could play the ping ponging effect where maybe a Garendo game is opposite some of the passing game. Does that intrigue you guys?
Yeah, I like it. I'm a big fan of just Garendo's like at this range here. It's okay to kind of like, because I think this is obviously a contingent play, but you know, at this round and his and the upside that his contingency contains, like I'm with it. I really like what I saw from Garendo last year, and just knowing that if the opportunity ever knocked, like that he's probably going to be a beast. Yeah, that's worth chasing.
He does seem like a explosive guy, like a spiky profile guy too, right? Like I think back to the Seattle game last year where he came in the second half for Jordan Mason and he rips off like that 50-yard run that he went down at the 1 or whatever. He went to ice clock instead of score or whatever, but he just has that in his bag, right?
Yeah. A couple questions from the chat. Will you guys be doing some eliminators? We did one, was it 2 weeks ago? Or Nez and I did on Off and On the Clock. You can find that on my channel. And I do think we'll probably throughout the summer kind of circle back to some of these. You know, 1 week we'll do eliminator. Next we'll do marathon. We'll kind of check in and build off of things. Obviously with the schedule released, we'll have more fun angles to attack in these contests. So yes, we'll definitely do more eliminators, but you can go back a few weeks ago on Off and On the Clock. Nez and I did a primer there. Pepper Tony, any Badge Bros hoops coverage later? I believe you guys are doing a Memby's Choice for what that premium show is. Is that how it's working, John?
Yep, we're doing Memby's Choice right after this. Today. Got to make good on some members only content. So yeah, I'll cover the hoops a little bit. I mean, it's hard to talk about the same games in the same slate over and over again because the totals are the same and the spreads are the same and that sort of thing. But definitely we'll cover some of the adjustments from it throughout the series kind of thing. So start with hoops, do some baseball, but gonna kind of be like a more chill ass version of a show today, seeing as though I didn't watch a ton last night. and didn't do a ton of research in general because spent the last 12 hours trying to fix this fucking computer. So we're good now.
We're on the clock, fellas. I think like Benson, Ray Davis are intriguing upside plays. Algier, obviously, Leggett,
Let's do Ray
QJ.
Davis with the Keon Coleman stuff.
Yeah. Let's do it. One thing you realize, I mean, the wide receiver stuff here is getting thinned out. I mean, there's certainly guys that can spike in this range, but it definitely gets gross. Some of the ADPs too are funny. You have like Calvin Austin up here with an ADP of 195. I feel like I don't see him getting drafted much.
A lot.
Amari Cooper.
Austin's a pretty awesome weekly winner pick.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyler, for the Badge Bros membership.
What a goat. Thank you, Tyler.
Yes, I will fix that problem for you.
I don't have an answer for him.
Oh, I got an answer for him. I'll fix that problem for you. Just pull it out. Just pull it out, and that'll take care of things there. Yeah. Surely you will retain.
Is this a Canadian?
Hey, whoa. Don't put it on the screen.
Save it for the audio listeners.
Audio listeners.
Here's our team: 2-5-5-1. Brock and Jordan Love stacked up with Jaden Reed and George Kittle. 5 running backs: Gibbs, JT, Aaron Jones, Garendo, and Ray Davis. Wide receivers: Drake London, Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, Jaden Reed, Keon Coleman. Tight end: George Kittle. I think we're in pretty good shape at running back. I mean, the last guy I would probably be interested in at running back would be Algier, but even then, I don't know if we have to force it necessarily. Wide receiver, there's some interesting guys in here. I mean, QJ, Tillman. If we wanted to stack up Love, I would be interested in Dobbs. What do you guys think?
I like this. I like to do the little double stack there. I think we should just be peppering wide receiver. Yeah.
This is the part. No problem getting the correlation at these prices. Pick 164 here, and just in case Jaden Reed's agent is wrong and he's not the wide receiver one, and maybe there's a week where Romeo Dobbs operates as the wide receiver one, we'll be okay.
Dobbs showed some spikes last year too, and he tends to be a little bit more on the professional ass wide receiver scale than he does the slate break ceiling of like Jaden Reed side of the scale, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that the latter can't happen. Especially with some contention.
So we have 4 more picks. I do think we'll still probably want to tack on a second tight end just because it'll be probably one of the better values. And then that leaves 3 more picks. I mean, I think we're going to probably just be hammering some wide receiver darts mostly.
Yeah. That checks out to me. Would you guys entertain any form of a last tight end here, or we're good with Kittle?
No, I think I would be interested in a second tight end. Yeah.
Because we're trying to shoot ceiling, but in general, like the best pick at this part in the draft is almost always just a tight end,
Yep.
Just
that's
general.
My thought. Like I think Brenton Strange is a really strong pick here at 173. Honestly, Zach Ertz too. But if I'm choosing between the two, I think I prefer Strange.
Sidebar for a second. What is a good? Okay, never mind.
We're on the clock.
We're on the clock.
I would go Strange or Keenan, but I'm on such an island with the Keenan stuff that I'm not going to make you guys.
Let's do Ertz, and I'll tell you why after.
Okay. All right.
We're betting on that Hunter ceiling breakout stuff, and we don't have the quarterback correlated, so we don't want to ping pong our own team.
Okay. All right, that's fair. Yeah, with the Hunter early stuff, I honestly had blanked on the Hunter Strange teammate status. So thank you for reminding that.
I got a question for you. Is there anything pick'em wise you love for this evening, Nez, as like a one? Because there is something that I deem Gen Wealth in the lobbies right now that our guy Len Keith just rolled through with.
Yeah, Senga fantasy points higher against the Pirates.
Senga? Okay.
Yeah.
What's the total? 34 or something?
36, but it's the Pirates.
Okay.
Are you cooking us up a pick'em here, John? I know the chat was asking for it earlier.
Yeah, I'm gonna run this twice for the chat. One involves tonight and one involves tomorrow. I think it's a really good shout from Len Keith in the chat here. So I'm gonna not say it out loud just yet, so we can keep jamming for a second. Anything else you like tonight that's not Senga, so we're not doubling down, or should I just double down?
I think Soto fantasy points against Mitch Keller. It's 8.5, but like I just think he's gonna get crushed against against the Mets.
John, is this one you dropped? Is it 2 picks?
Yeah, they're both 2 picks. Okay. So they're both in the chat there. I haven't used the extender with it yet. Evan's alluding in the chat that we do have the 80% extender to add as well. There we go. So one is Senga, one is Soto from tonight, and then pairing it with the Peyton Pritchard stuff for tomorrow. Peyton Pritchard is priced right now as if Jason Tatum's playing basketball tomorrow.
Which I believe he's not. So Michael Wilson is kind of a fun spike week potential wide receiver here.
Let's queue him up and then let's continue to browse.
Yeah. Pat Bryant is interesting. Lockett, I think, could be an early season spike week guy with Cam Ward.
Yeah.
I think I like Wilson first, and then we can decide between those other guys when they come back. I think doesn't Wilson kind of mentally separate for you guys there of a divisional correlation with the San Fran main stacks that we got, and then also indoors, and then also as a guy who can take a leap on a team that hasn't really done much at the skill positions this offseason.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. I was thinking about that team, and I'm like, man, they really did not add.
They're just running it back, baby.
At all.
Running it back.
Yeah, I gravitate to Michael Wilson a decent bit in drafts there when I'm just kind of looking for a guy that I think has spike week upside and then also some job security back there. He was also one of the younger rookies, as far as when I was looking at some of the RotoViz data on breakouts for rookies and sophomores and rookies who play that come into the league at 21 years old. And he was in that crew there who kind of stood out to me. So I still have a little hope that he's not done developing and might even have another extra gear.
Yeah.
That's a good point, man. Like, wouldn't be the first time we've seen a third year breakout.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
From a guy that we think is like a very talented athlete. Maybe the production isn't there yet, but.
So this is kind of the spot too, where it's like, I think you could make a case for a third tight end just because Cade Otton is going to be on the field so much. But we also have Godwin, so that we're kind of in that same scenario. Pat Bryant, Jalen Tolbert, Diami Brown. Well, I guess we have the Hunter thing.
I like Bryant.
Yeah. I mean, he's now going like 20 picks higher than this in BBM, which is obviously a different game. Probably a late season type pick, but it's like, man, at this point, I guess a guy like Jalen Coker, I noticed him down here. You could, I think, honestly justify the Wicks thing too.
I was going to say that. Like, what changed? I mean, they drafted 2 wide receivers, so I guess that changed. But like, That was
But they also
that
lost.
was the
They in theory lost one with Christian Watson too, right?
true.
Yeah.
And he was always like the guy in his way, right? It was like,
Yeah.
is Watson active or not? It's
Yeah,
the
that was
18th
the one
round.
for
It's
one.
like, yeah.
I guess fully circling back on the conversation we had to start the show when we were saying we didn't want to do a little bit of the onslaughty or the over correlate stuff because it cannibalizes ceiling outcome. There is a tipping point kind of like halfway through this draft at like round 14 where
Right.
two wide receivers from the Packers is a little bit of a boost comparatively, just like it is in BBM versus insert random other profile, right?
Yeah, once you get to this point, man, like
Yeah.
this late in the draft, that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pete kind of alluded to it earlier. I just wanted to double down on that notion because playing whack-a-mole with wide receiver right now doesn't feel as good as being like Davion Williams or Dontavian Wicks on this team, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where you then just kind of want to concentrate it. And because the question you're asking yourself is like, is it a situation where, the production is going to get cannibalized and, kind of like the Bills situation, honestly, a little bit where it's like no one had an uber ceiling because it was so spread out and low pass volume. But I think with the Packers, we saw when they were actually in some shootouts, there were ceiling performances for multiple guys. We did lose out on Wicks here. Let's see.
That sucks.
What about Deontay Johnson?
I don't know, man.
Okay. All right.
I'll put Tutu Atwell in the chat for a second. I know
Sure.
ETR has a high rank on him. That's about the only nice thing I can say about Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
Savion Williams, we probably could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess if I was to think of anybody else there, AD Mitchell, but I was really banking on. I kind of chalked up Wicks and really just pushed the plane mentally on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
I was
Pushed the plane mentally.
just
I love
shit. All right, there's Tutu for the short games.
Yeah, Steven says he had done some analysis, but I did some stuff last summer and seemed to indicate overstacking gets better as draft capital investment decreases, which completely tracks intuitively with me, where you allow yourself to be right on an offense and the cost is so low that you don't have to worry about their ceiling games hurting your other early round draft picks.
Exactly.
Imwald wants us to take a quick look at his team here. McCarthy, Anthony Richardson went heavy RB, CMC, Brees, B-Rob, Sharbs, Wright, Shipley, some nice contingent bets there. AJ Brown, Evans, JMO, Addison, Pittman, Pierce, Noel, Wick. So yeah, getting the cheap double stack. With Richardson, no need to Cypus on Dontavian Wicks, especially after we all mentally pushed the plane. Hawkinson and obviously Addison there with JJ looks like a solid team to me.
Yeah, that looks good. Those cheap double darts at quarterback, like that seems pretty enticing. Like I think my quarterback strategy wants to be kind of like pretty polarizing like that, where it's like you're either shooting the moon with your late guys or you're paying up for the premium floor ceiling combo and playing a one at the onesies kind of thing. I like that idea.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Clay's here. Where's my guy Clay? CB Sutton, Stafford, and Bryce Young. James Cook, Caleb Johnson, Pacheco, Tracy, Hunter, Keaton. So kind of like a zero RB-ish room, but loaded here at wide receiver with Puka, Nico, JSN, Pickens, Samuel, Leggett, Wandell. God, this guy just cannot stop drafting.
He can't quit.
They
MF Gray.
He slow rolled it too because I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, like oh fucking Noah Gray. What a slow roll.
Honestly, kind of a great weekly winners pick. I'll take the bait. I think he's a great weekly winners pick.
He's crafting the tweet right now. Skies are still gray in Kansas City. All right, last one. We'll look at Respooked here.
The one thing I would say about Clay's team, like it's like beautifully constructed and whatnot, is those two quarterbacks. I think they both lack the ceiling to ever be QB1 scorer on a given week. Like we've literally haven't seen it from Matthew Stafford with weapons for years. We haven't seen QB1 from him in like 8 years. So like I don't know if you need the absolute. We basically made the argument at the start of the show that you need QB1 to matter, right? Or QB2.
I guess the counter argument would be we did see Bryce Young have a 30-ball game there at the end of last season. Defense bad. Add Tet McMillan. But yeah, I think my thought on that, John, I'm with you. If I do that room, I think I'd want to have a third quarterback. Like if I'm going that thin at draft capital, give me one more chance to win a week with 28 from my quarterback, knowing I'm probably not going to have a guy who's dropping 35.
Like even just like naked Daniel Jones in the last round instead of Noah Gray.
I mean, I don't think Clay is capable of hearing advice that involves not selecting Noah Gray with his last pick.
Yeah.
Is this respooked Riley Taylor here?
Yes.
Burrow, Goff, May. So some pretty significant capital at quarterback, including Burrow at 24. Kyron, Pollard, Mason, Sampson, Ford, Chase Metcalf, Diggs, Mims, Brown, Besh, Calvin Austin, Laporta, and Henry. So getting the quarterback stacked up there with the wide receivers. I think this is the exact team where I would just like to flip Joe Burrow, pick 24 to a running back. You can rock Chase as a solo alpha there, and you still have Goff, May, Stacks, and you get one more running back in this room that's kind of thin that can give you a ceiling. That would probably be my comment there of like draft Chase Brown. It's well, not in that case because you have Chase, but who would you draft? Breece Hall? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like I guess to like spin zone this in a way that's like positive, because I love Respooked, is like, you know, in the same vein that we look at these onesies as being the guys you have to have, and we talk about why that makes more sense. Like you could say that for the running back room, like, hey, I am making my $10 bet that 1 week these 3 running backs are going to be who you have to have, and I just want to make sure that I have a stack that plays. Like I don't see how that. I mean, I think that's a fair principle to say. If I was to spin zone it, I'm not drafting teams like this in weekly winners, but
yeah, and I can certainly see how it could work out. But yeah, I just think then I would almost want to either flip one of these quarterback picks, probably either the Goff or the Burrow, to a running back. There, just thinking about the overall capital.
I think the Goff one probably for me.
Yeah, and it does set up, and it's funny that we have the dynamic in BBM and puppies and whatnot, where it's like if you're the chase drafter, you're probably going to have to take him at the 4 or 5 turn. Maybe 15% of the time you can push him in a badge room where everyone stays in their lane. Even then, you're competing against the Higgins drafter, so it's more realistically if you start Chase and Higgins, and then you push it and someone doesn't go rogue. But in this one, it's moved up an entire couple of rounds. Now the decision based on his ADP is if you take him at the 2-3 turn. That would be another spot where I do think I would look, if I was in a full badge room in weekly winners, I think there's a much better chance if you were to push Joe Burrow. Just because so many drafters who are used to doing Best Ball Mania puppies are probably going to be like, what? I'm not taking Joe Burrow unstacked in the 3rd.
Right.
The issue is you're always going to be competing with that T. Higgins drafter in front of you.
Yeah. You're playing chicken with them.
You never would have known in this instance, but it's nice to see T. Higgins go to the naked quarterback like Jaden Daniels. And if you had known that in hindsight, you always push Burrow then.
Yes. Even then, though, I will say, like, you know, we had some badge drafters that were, I'm not saying doing anything that insane. I mean, I probably wouldn't start with 5 running backs, but anytime you see that, it's just like unstacked Burrow. Like I've seen that movie a million times.
Naked Purdy of my generation.
Yes. All right, dudes. That was fun. Like I said, we had previous shows on Sprint and Eliminator. Obviously, those were also before the NFL schedule, but we talked through similar like we did here, kind of high level strategy thoughts to consider. So if you want some primers, recommend those. And then when the schedule drops, you can get in there and start optimizing around the bye weeks and all of that good stuff. And we'll figure out what we do next week on here with the schedule. But yeah, any other announcements, plugs for you guys?
Nope, just gonna
No, I
do
don't.
it's just gonna do the members only stream right after this, and then we will do our usual thing Wednesday and Thursday. There, we're gonna jump on with Davis tomorrow morning as well. So that's gonna be a double dip there. We're gonna be part of that schedule release marathon stream there at 12 p.m. Eastern. Correct, Nez?
Yes. Yeah, I need to triple check that that's the time that Davis sent me.
Yeah. So we'll be hopping on there and then doing our usual thing. And I'll make sure we get today's badges only and one more badges only this week for everybody before I take off on Friday and Monday.
All right. Beautiful. For me, no shows tomorrow. Like I said, ship chasing Thursday will be after the NFL schedule. We'll have some fun with the week 17 matchups. I'm going to have some content for Fantasy Life too. I think what I might do just for fun is power rank all week 17 matchups and kind of factor in a bunch of things, game environment total, but also kind of like how ADPs line up and like what is fun, as far as for stacking those up. So you can keep an eye out for that. I did just book After Dark for Saturday. Michael Dubner from RotoViz and now Leg Up does a lot of great work in the best ball space. So going to catch up with him. We'll probably draft a team as well. And I should have a schedule related video on the Deposit Kingdom, probably a draft style video too, if you want to check that out. But yes, good stuff. Join us in the Discord, Deposit Kingdom Discord. Links down below. As always, sub to the Badge Bros. Keep crushing. Appreciate you all. We'll see you guys next time on Off and On the Clock.